Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Let's talk about how the hell we ended up here. As with most things now, it all starts with fake news. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone to the awe of everyone in the world. People anywhere could now talk to anyone about mustache care or how much of a racist jerk Rutherford B. Hayes was. However, it didn't take long for everyone to ask for more. Because if you could send your voice over a wire, why couldn't you send a photo of your mustache? Barely 2 years later, in 1876, a French writer named Louis Fergoir heard a rumor that Alexander Graham Bell was developing something called a photophone. Now, if Louis would have done some research, he would have heard that Graham Bell and team were actually working on a system to transmit audio telephone calls over a wire by light, kind of a precursor to modern fiber optics. Instead, he published a story that Alexander Graham Bell had developed an invention called a telectroscope, a device which would allow calling with pictures, which he claimed would lead to merchants transmitting pictures of their wares to customers, the contents of all the world's museums to be made available anywhere, and operas and plays to be viewed at home. Now, even if this wasn't a real thing, the excitement around the telectroscope spread like wildfire, quickly winding up in science fiction writers' books and comics. By the early 20th century, leaps and bounds were being made into the research for picture phones, and unsurprisingly, nowhere made more strides in that than the company that originated from Graham Bell himself, AT&T's Bell Labs in New Jersey. In 1927, they held a demonstration of a one-way broadcast of a live picture and audio of Herbert Hoover, the Secretary of Commerce at the time, as he gave a speech in New York to a group of politicians and journalists in DC. The only catch was, no one could talk back. This picture phone was a one-way street. So what Bell Labs had on their hands was kind of more of a television, the true invention of which they were of course beaten to by Philo Farnsworth, who in 1927 also made his first broadcast, and then in 1930 cracked the code, a working television receiver device that could be used in homes. Bell Labs continued to hack away, being convinced that a television and even video conferencing were just the start. They thought of themselves less of a phone company and more of an information company. And if they could expand their audio communications business to video, there was no limit to the kinds of information they could broadcast into people's homes. They too could see the interconnected world to come could be a huge business. And at the 1964 World's Fair in New York City, Bell's technology called Picturephone finally made its public debut. The Picturephone was a 5-inch black and white screen, which is pretty much the same size as a modern smartphone, with a camera. After waiting several hours in line, a person in Queens got the privilege to sit and talk to another person who also waited in a line for several hours in Disneyland, California. I assume they talked about how long their wait was. To promote the service, picture phones were installed in booths in public locations in New York City, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. People could make reservations to talk to a friend at any of those locations for the outrageous price of $16 for 3 minutes. Now that's about $130 in modern money for 3 minutes. Unsurprisingly, at this price, Picturephone booths never caught on and were closed 4 years later, with literally only 71 people having used them. The technology was still major news, and video calls started to be a regular element in science fiction, television, and movies, like Star Trek, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and The Jetsons. In 1970, AT&T really thought they had it this time, offering Picturephone installations in-home and offices for the price of $160 per month for 30 minutes of talk time. Now, that's about $1,000 in modern money per month for 30 minutes of talk time. But they were positive it would be a success. But by the mid-1970s, only 500 devices were operating, and in 1978, After spending $500 million on the project, AT&T abandoned it completely. Throughout the 1980s, several other companies would try to make video conferencing work, but it always was more expensive and harder to use. One version cost $250,000 for just the device and $1,000 an hour for call time. But in 1992, after nearly a century of trying, AT&T finally sort of got it, releasing the Videophone 2500. I'm not sure what 2500 stood for, probably the amount of times they had tried to make a video phone work. The device itself cost $1,499, and because the color video was transmit over a regular phone line, it didn't cost the user anything extra to make calls. It was successful-ish, selling 30,000 units before being discontinued 3 years later. AT&T? You've done it again. Meanwhile, the dream of those working on video calling, that way to send endless information through wires, fully developed independent of all of them with the World Wide Web. And ironically, it was this technology, the World Wide Web, that paved the way for August 2003, when a truly consumer-based, cheap, widely adopted, easy-to-use video calling solution was released, called Skype. And Skype begot iChat video, which begot FaceTime, which begot Google Hangouts, which begot Zoom, which begot Microsoft Teams. And here we are, still in a worldwide pandemic, with some of us trapped in these little video chat boxes forever. P.S. AT&T would finally get into the television and movie business when they bought Time Warner in 2018, only to change their minds and spin it off into a separate company nearly 3 years later. Good job, AT&T.